of blood. The gods told you.
Then I defy the gods.
I fear the Odyssey may have been overhyped. The promise of one of the best filmmakers working today turning the original adventure story into a mega-scale modern blockbuster was enough to make this the biggest movie event of the year, even bigger than Spielberg doing another UFO movie, even bigger than Spider-Man's long-awaited comeback and featuring half of its cast in major roles. Universal pretty much gave Christopher Nolan a blank check to make the Odyssey as grand and epic as possible, so it was his to fuck up. I was so excited for this movie. I never gave a fuck about the armor, I don't give a fuck about the race of the actors, I don't give a fuck if Tom Holland calls his dad. I just wanted to see Chris Nolan turn classic iconography like the Cyclops and the Sirens and the barren wasteland of the dead into a dazzling cinematic spectacle, and all the trailers seemed to suggest that was exactly what we were getting. When the reviews dropped, it was 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, raves across the board. So it seemed like he'd really nailed it, he'd really stuck the landing. And then I saw the film.
Wow, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
Oh my God, that was an abomination. That was awful.
Sit through that. My ass is actually sore. My ass is actually sore.
Every interview I've seen with Nolan and or Matt Damon has opened with the interviewer declaring the Odyssey to be one of the greatest films ever made, a cinematic monument on par with Lawrence of Arabia, and it just set the bar extremely high.
I'll say it on camera right now. This is one of the greatest films of all time, and I genuinely feel lucky to be covering it.
Wow.
And sitting across from you. Having seen like a 70 mil of Lawrence of Arabia recently, and then watching this, it feels like David Lean in the way that like this is old school filmmaking, but through your eyes.
I wouldn't say I was underwhelmed by the Odyssey, but I wouldn't say I was overwhelmed either. Certainly not enough to declare it a flawless 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10 masterpiece. I was just whelmed.
Keep us straight!
I think it's asleep.
What the fuck?
I've never read Homer's poem, but I know the story from various different adaptations and parodies, and this version has most of the key moments you're expecting. Since it's the oldest story ever told, the story that all drama is built on, it's structurally sound. It has an exciting A plot, a meanwhile back at the ranch B plot, and a satisfying finale that brings them both together. But it's also driven by concepts and ideas that have since become well-worn tropes and cliches. If you boil it down, the entire story is Tom Holland tries to prevent every eligible bachelor in Ithaca from fucking his MILF, while Matt Damon takes 10 years to get home and seems to spend like 9.5 of those years just dicking around. The plot is very episodic. This happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. It starts to feel a bit repetitive after a while. They stop off on an island, some really weird shit happens on the island, they all flee back to the boat, they don't all make it, they stop at another island, rinse and repeat. Within that episodic plot, there are some incredible isolated sequences, mostly the big action set pieces, where it really felt like absolute cinema, and I was really locked in. The Cyclops sequence is its own little monster movie, the Trojan horse sequence really captures the claustrophobia of being crammed into a tiny space for days, and the scene where Cersei turns everyone into pigs is full-blown body horror. But some sequences have the potential to be great and don't live up to it. The scene where they fight an army of giants is over and done with in seconds. It just feels like they're going through the motions. I was really excited to see that scene after we got a glimpse of it in the trailer. This idea that maybe the story began with they were really tall and we got lost trying to find our way out of the woods, and it became they were 12-foot tall behemoths and trees magically appeared to block our path. But the movie races through it and it's really weirdly directed. The setup doesn't land. It's supposed to freak us out that this little boy is the same size as the grown men, with the implication that his parents will be even bigger, but it never shows the kid in frame with anyone else, so you don't get a sense of scale before the big reveal of this army of giants. It's uncharacteristically sloppy filmmaking for Nolan, and it took me out of the movie. There are a few pacing issues. The scene where Odysseus is talking to the dead was really eerie and effective at first. Elliot Page is incredible in that scene, but it went on for so long that the whole atmosphere was deflated like 5 minutes before they chased them back to the boat for the 10th time.
Let's go!
The big technical achievement here is that they shot absolutely everything on IMAX cameras. Usually you only shoot the big set pieces on IMAX because the cameras are so big and loud and cumbersome that it's not practical to use them for intimate dialogue scenes. But for the Odyssey, they figured out a way to do it. They had actors acting against mirrors and a giant box to silence the noisy machinery. But apart from the aspect ratio staying where it is through the whole film, you don't really get any benefit from the smaller scenes being shot on such a humongous format. If anything, the lengths they had to go to capture the dialogue scenes on IMAX cameras hindered the dialogue itself. itself, because all the trickery with mirrors and mufflers to make this possible threw the actors off their usual rhythm, and the result is really stilted, unnatural performances from world-class actors who don't usually give stilted, unnatural performances.
Promise me you will come back.
What if I can't?
You're a man who needs to control his fate.
My dad is coming home.
That world is gone.
George, you can type this shit, but you cannot say it.
The Odyssey is almost comically star-studded. They could have announced the cast with a long line of chairs like Avengers Doomsday.
Ooh. Ah. Ooh.
Every single role in its massive ensemble, no matter how small or inconsequential, is played by one of the most recognizable and beloved movie stars on the planet. It makes John Mulaney's joke about the Oppenheimer cast feel even more relevant.
That Oppenheimer cast is stacked with talent. Every part is played by a huge movie star. They're like, hey, we need an extra to polish the atom bomb. Let's see if Jack Nicholson is available.
But while there are lots and lots of great actors in the film, very few of them have anything interesting to do. Tom Holland does his usual Tom Holland thing as the awkward but courageous everyman. John Bernthal does his John Bernthal thing as the gruff, battle-hardened badass. And we're about to see them play those roles again in 2 weeks when Spider-Man comes out.
Go home!
Matt Damon gives a really great physical performance as Odysseus, even if the character of Odysseus himself is a bit of a wet blanket. Zendaya is relegated to the same bullshit role she had in June 1 as a literal manic pixie dream girl, appearing to the hero in his dreams and guiding him on his journey. At least with June, there were a couple of sequels on the horizon to give Chani a bigger role and a journey of her own. There's a really powerful visual contrasting the beheading of an Athena statue with the beheading of Athena herself, but you didn't have to get one of the world's best actors and biggest stars to play that part. It's very distracting to see Travis Scott. I'm not against having a rapper play the bard. I actually think that's a really cool idea. But why did it have to be that rapper? Kendrick Lamar and Tyler the Creator are both right there, and they didn't get any of their fans killed that I know of. Much like Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer, Anne Hathaway doesn't get many chances to shine. She's a woman in a Christopher Nolan film. But much like Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer, when she does get that chance, she really fucking shines. In both cases, they swoop in to steal the show with a ferocious third act monologue. Puppeteer Bill Irwin manages to make the Cyclops simultaneously really creepy and strangely sympathetic. John Leguizamo is doing some of the best work of his career, maybe his best performance since Summer of Sam, as the sad old blind man. And Robert Pattinson is a clear standout. Lupita Nyong'o is mesmerizing as always, and really unpredictable with this erratic, almost bipolar performance. She's perfectly cast as Helen of Troy. I don't care what color she is, Helen is supposed to be the most stunningly, strikingly beautiful person in the world. And Lupita fits the part, whether white supremacists can handle it or not. The music is one of the best parts of the film, and one of the reasons it's such an intense cinematic experience. Ludwig Göransson is coming for another Oscar. They might as well rename Best Original Score the Ludwig Göransson Award. He always does incredible work. He always gives a movie the musical heartbeat it needs to really come alive. And this is no different. The Odyssey has an arresting score. There's an atmospheric rumble on the soundtrack throughout the whole film that shakes the theater and rattles your armrests. The Odyssey is an epic in the truest sense. It's got a massive scale, ridiculously impressive practical effects and sets, and it really rewards a trip to the cinema. The bigger the screen, the better. But at the end of it all, you're left wondering, what was the point? Love conquers all, war is futile, don't remarry. Nolan gets a bit meta in his adaptation. He's just as interested in telling the story around the story as the story itself. Thematically, this movie is all about stories and the phenomenon of storytelling, the inherent humanness of telling stories, and the inherent humanness of exaggerating those stories over time. The Odyssey is the oldest example of a story that got told and retold and embellished and reshaped until it became something else entirely, and spoke to something much bigger and more universal. And Nolan explores all of that in the film itself. The film acknowledges the fluid, ever-changing nature of this story. Most of the story is being recollected and relayed to us, with different details added or omitted to suit what the storyteller is trying to say. We see a myth in the making, and futile attempts to control the narrative. By the end of the Odyssey, you really feel like you've been on a 10-year journey. But I'd argue that's not a good thing. It's not a good sign that I felt way more fired up and energized and excited coming out of Oppenheimer a couple of years ago than I did coming out of the Odyssey the other day. How did he manage to make the movie about giants and monsters and dudes trying to fuck Anne Hathaway less engaging than the movie about the self-pitying physicist who wiped half of Japan off the face of the earth?
Up where the mountains meet the heavens above, out where the lightning splits the sea, I could swear there is someone somewhere watching me. Through the wind and the
for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe and click on the little bell. And also seize the day and call your mom and be kind to yourself.